Marhaban! My name is Ian Campbell, and this is the second in a series of videos intended to introduce you to the complicated, but not necessarily difficult, grammar of modern Standard Arabic. This series of videos will address how to make nouns and adjectives into phrases, which requires a great deal more in Arabic than it does in English. In this second video, I'll be talking about the gender of nouns and how adjectives need to agree in gender with the nouns they describe. So let's begin with the word for phrase, which is really a two-word phrase. Ism sifa. Ism sifa literally means noun adjective or name description, if you want. And Arabic uses this to mean phrase in English. And a phrase is related words that are not by themselves a full sentence. So we'll move on to sentences in the next series of videos. But phrases are a little bit easier, so we'll take care of them first. We use the word al-jins in Arabic to describe both sex and gender. Sex is, of course, biological parts. Gender is a set of behaviors that is believed, usually erroneously, to go along with the biological parts. Arabic uses the same word for these two very different concepts, which creates a lot of confusion and resistance when you start talking about how sex and gender aren't necessarily the same thing, because they use the same word for both of them. Arabic societies tend to be a lot more gender policing than Western societies, but of course, I live in a major city. If I go to rural Georgia, people are going to do some gender policing there too. The plural of al-jins is al-ajnas. Jins, in addition to meaning sex and gender, can also mean like type or sort of or kind of something. In Arabic, there are only two genders, masculine and feminine. We don't have an it like we do in English. There are no neuter nouns. In English, the vast majority of nouns are neuter. In Arabic, all nouns are either masculine or feminine. So, mudhakkar is our word for masculine. And this means grammatically masculine. It doesn't mean like a set of behaviors being really manly or whatever. That's not what we're talking about here. The word mudhakkar is used for grammatically masculine nouns. So we could say, for example, male people are always grammatically masculine. So here's a good set of words to learn that are general descriptors of people. A walad is a boy, usually pre-puberty boy. Could also mean son. A shab, double ba here, a shab, you got to kind of land on the ba to make it pronounce right, is a young man, someone past the age of puberty but under 30, usually unmarried. Arabic societies still make a great deal of the distinction between married and unmarried, just like we used to say miss versus Mrs. in English, and no one really does that anymore. Ar-rajul is an adult man, usually someone married or who has been married and is over 30 and has a job and a car and a lot of crushing student loan debt. Al-walid, you could see that walad for boy and walid for male parent have the same root, waw, lam, dal, which is to be born, and there's a lot of words that come from this. So a walid, the born-er, is really what it means, is the male parent, though as a male parent I can attest that I did not do any bearing. I mostly just got ice cream and pickles. Al-eb is another word for father, and eb only has two root letters. Really, it's a little confusing, but don't worry about it. So al-eb, al-walid, nafse shay, same thing, just two different words, male parent versus father. Al-ibn can mean son, S-O-N, son, not S-U-N. And you'll often see this word in people's last names. Somebody will be bin so-and-so. If it's linked together with another noun, it will lose its alif here. So al-ibn is a son. A tafl is a child, just a child in general. And this word is masculine. It defaults to masculine, like all nouns describing people default to masculine. Al-akh is a brother. Again, like al-ab, it looks like it only has two root letters. Az-zawj, it looks like zouj, but it's not, it's zawj. Zawj comes from the word for a pair of something, like a pair of glasses or a pair of pants, and it means husband, one half of a pair. And a talib, which we've learned before, comes from the root lam ba, which means to request, and a talib is literally a requester. That's a student. That's you, if you're a man or a boy, because talib implies a male student, and I'll get to that in just a second. So these nouns, because they represent male people, are always what we call mudhakkar, or grammatically masculine. That makes sense to most English speakers. But the vast majority of singular nouns that don't end in ta marbuta are also masculine. And this applies to all manner of things, places, and ideas that would be neuter in English. So I'll give you some examples from studying. So a beit is a house, maybe not from studying here. There's nothing masculine about a house to an English speaker. And in truth, to most native speakers of Arabic, there's nothing masculine in the sense of what we would think of as traditionally masculine about a house. It's all about how the word is pronounced. That's what makes it grammatically masculine or feminine. And this is true in Spanish and French and other languages that have grammatical gender as well. A dars is a lesson. So in a previous video, we learned the word madrasa for a school and tedris for teaching, and they all have the dal ra sin root common to them. And that's the root for studying. And because this is a class and you're probably a university student, you'll use words that have this root an awful lot, especially at first. So a dars is a lesson, and it's grammatically masculine. A kitab is a book. It's got the kaf ta ba root, which means to write. And this is just a noun pattern. So al-kitab is a book, and it's masculine. A daftar, this is a word that has 4 root letters because it originally comes from another language. So a daftar is a notebook, something that you'd be writing in. I always make it to students that Darth Vader uses his daftar on the Death Star. I don't know if that will help you, though. Al-qalam is originally it means a reed, like in a marsh, or what you would put in a saxophone, though they didn't have saxophones back then. So it has come in modern Arabic to mean a pen or a pencil. Imagine dipping a little bit of a reed in ink, and that's the idea here. So this word is qalam, not column, like something that holds a building up, or Gollum, the little guy who wants his ring back, but qalam, 2 short syllables, qalam. And that's a pen or a pencil. Sometimes we'll add another word to it to make it clear that it's a pencil and not a pen, but don't worry about it for right now. A writing utensil is what it means. A computer, a great word borrowed from English, is a computer. There's technically a formal Arabic word, al-hasub, which comes from the root for to calculate, that you'll sometimes see in written Arabic, but nobody ever says that. Everybody calls it a computer, and a computer is a masculine noun. Al-Mektab is the place where you do kitab, the writing place, and therefore an office or a desk. I'm in my office right now. Ana fil mektab. I'm in the office. So it's a masculine noun. If we add ta marbuta to it and make it feminine, then it becomes library or bookstore, but I'll talk about that later. Al-kursi is what I'm sitting in right now, a chair, and it is also a masculine object. So all of these vocabulary words I'm giving you in this lesson are really, really common ones and worth getting to know because you'll use both the people and the objects all the time. So, feminine nouns. Nouns that represent female people are always grammatically feminine, just like nouns that represent male people are grammatically masculine. Our word for feminine is mu'annath, and it has the uh-oh sound in the middle of the word, which English doesn't generally do. So we have it spelled over here, mu'annath, and the hamza gets to sit on the waw because he's got a dhamma before him. The waw is not pronounced, it's just the kursi or chair for the hamza. So mu'annath means feminine, but grammatically feminine, not feminine in the sense of like behaving in a feminine manner. That's a different word. So female people are feminine nouns. So we have walad up here for son. We have bint for girl or daughter. Walad means boy or son. Bint means girl or daughter. It doesn't end in ta marbuta, but it's still feminine because it represents a female person. Al-fatat is the girl counterpart of shab. You could call a young woman a shabba. There's nothing wrong with that. But fatat is kind of a little classier way to say it. And words that end in alif and then ta marbulta, the ta marbulta gets pronounced like it's a ta here. So fatat is a young woman, an unmarried young woman, again, because this distinction still matters in these cultures. So al-mar'a is the counterpart of a rajul. A rajul is an adult man, a mar'a is an adult woman. Later we'll see when this word is indefinite, it changes forms, but we don't need to worry about that right now. Al-walida is the female parent, just like al-walid is the male parent. And trust me, it's the female parent who does the actual giving birth, believe it or not. And another word to say mother is al-and it has two memes here with the shadda, and it has a dhamma here, but it's al-eb with a fatha up here, and no shadda. So is a mother, a walida is a female parent. They both can swap out for each other, they're synonyms. A tafla is a female child, just like a tafl is a male child. We default to masculine, so if we're just talking about a child in general, we would say tafl. But if we want to emphasize that the child is female, and these cultures nearly always would, we would say tafla. An akh is a brother. An ukht with a dhamma is a sister. A zawj is a husband. A zawja with a ta marbuta is a wife. A talib is a student. A taliba is a female student. I should have said a male student up here. Masculine is the default in Arabic, but we don't need to make it the default in our everyday life. So nouns that represent female people are grammatically feminine. Nouns that represent male people are grammatically masculine. That shouldn't be too much trouble. It's the nouns that we would think of as it in English that are the kind of the problem, at least at this level. So essentially all singular nouns that do end in ta marbulta are mu'annath, and this also applies to things and places and so forth that we would say it in English. So here's some more studying related words, classroom related words that you might want to know. A ghurfa is a room, and again ta marbulta makes it feminine. There are a couple of nouns that end in ta marbulta but are still masculine, but they're so not relevant to this level of Arabic that you can just assume that any singular noun that ends in ta marbulta is grammatically feminine. A waraqa means a leaf, like on a plant or a tree, and from there, a piece of paper, which is mostly what it's used as in modern Arabic. So like think turn over a new leaf. In English, what you mean is turn a page, not an actual leaf. So a waraqa is a leaf or a piece of paper. A shasha is a screen, like the screen on this computer that I'm working from here. Not a screen like a folding screen that you would get dressed behind or one that you would put on a window, but specifically like a television or a computer screen. A tawila, tawil means tall or long. A tawila is a table, the kind of table that is roughly waist high. In Arabic cultures, you see a lot of tables that are ankle high that you sit on the ground around, and we use a different word for that. But a regular table that we would see in an American or Western college classroom is a tawila. A nafidha is a window. Sometimes you'll see the word shubak used, but a nafidha is more like a window with glass in it. A haqiba is a backpack or a bag, like a reasonably large bag, a suitcase, a backpack, something you'd carry your things in. Again, all of these nouns end in ta marbulta, and because they're singular, that makes them grammatically feminine. And you know al-jamia is the university. So again, if you see ta marbulta at the end of the word and you know it's singular, you may assume that it is grammatically feminine. The exceptions just really don't matter for your purposes at this point. There are also a couple of dozen singular nouns that don't end in ta marbulta, but for reasons that go back to like pre-Islamic poetry are mu'annath, are grammatically feminine, and you just learn these as you go. So here's some of the common examples here. Ash-shams is the sun. In most Western cultures, the sun is male and the moon is female. It makes more sense this way, like in The Lord of the Rings, the sun is a girl and the moon is the boy. So ash-shams, even though it doesn't end in ta marbulta, it's grammatically feminine. Same thing with al-harb, war, also grammatically feminine. And it just relates to old poetry. There's no particularly good reason why this is the case. Ar-ruh means spirit. Arih means the wind. You could tell they're related words, and they're both grammatically feminine. Body parts that come in pairs, like al-ain, the eye, which is where the letter of the alphabet gets its name, al-udhn, the ear. Both of them, because they come in pairs, are grammatically feminine. Why? I have literally no idea, but they are, and you'll gradually learn them. And then as-sama, the sky, and al-ard, the earth, both of them, or the ground, both of them are grammatically feminine, again, for no particularly good reason. And there's maybe like 15 or so others that fall into this category as well. You'll just pick them up as you go. And honestly, if you make the mistake that many, many first-year Arabic students do of thinking al-harb, oh, it doesn't end in ta marbulta, so it's masculine, so you use a masculine adjective to describe it, no one's really going to care or even notice. So a particularly persnickety teacher, which I am not, would notice, but an everyday speaker might notice, but certainly wouldn't care. You're communicating, and that's the important part. This is here for the sake of completeness. So let's put nouns and adjectives together into phrases, which is really quite easy. The tricky part is that adjectives come after their nouns, not before, like in English, and there's many other foreign languages that do this, so it probably isn't all that unfamiliar to you. The adjective needs to agree in gender with the noun. And nearly always, when we want to make an adjective feminine, we just add ta marbulta to it. So let me give you several examples here. So at-talib is the student. Al-jadid. Jadid means new, N-E-W, not K-N-E-W. And so this is the new student. We have to say the student, the new. But I'll get to that in a later video. Just roll with it for now. So the student is masculine, so the adjective is masculine. But if we have taliba, a student who is female, we don't have a word for a or an in Arabic, then I have to take jadid and I have to add ta marbulta to it to make it feminine. We would never do this in English. A new student, the new student. We don't even care what gender the student is, let alone the new. But we have to make them agree in Arabic. And almost always we add ta marbulta to the adjective to make it feminine. So rajul is a man, tawil is tall. So here we have a masculine adjective with a masculine noun. A tall man is what we would say in English. Al-mar'a, the woman, and again we have to add alif lam to the adjective for reasons I'll explain in a later video. But now we take tawil and turn it into tawila to make it agree with the woman. Even if this noun didn't end in ta marbulta, but it was feminine. For example, if it was the tall girl and bint, which doesn't end in ta marbulta, but does represent a female person, we'd have to say al bint at-tawila with the ta marbulta to make everything agree perfectly. And this applies to objects and ideas and places just like it does to people. So al-bayt, the house, kabir is big, so masculine noun, masculine object or masculine adjective. Al-bayt al-kabir, the big house, we say the house, the big. Ghurfa is room, and it's mu'annath, it's feminine. So we take kabir and we add ta marbulta to it. This is really easy and shouldn't present a problem at all for you. So ghurfa kabira, a big room. Kitab is a book. Again, we don't have an a or an an. Qadim is old. Don't use it to describe people. It means more like ancient. So kitab qadim, an old book. Masculine noun, masculine adjective. Ash-shams, the sun. We remember that this noun is feminine even though it doesn't look like it is because it's one of this special category. So if we're going to say the beautiful sun, we have to take jamil for beautiful and add ta marbulta to it to make it agree with the sun, even though ash-shams doesn't end with ta marbulta. And that's a little tricky, but not really rocket science. What gets tricky is when we have to put all these different attributes of nouns together. But if you take it one at a time, it's pretty easy to learn, which is why I'm sticking just to gender here. So there are a couple of classes of adjectives whose feminine form is quite different. However, they're all regular within those classes of adjectives. The main one is colors. Certain colors. There's only 7 of them. So al-bayt is house. Abyad, it looks like abid, but it's not. It's abyad. Abyad is white, like the color white. So Al-Bayt al-Abyad is where President Biden lives right now, the White House. And you'll hear this said if you've bookmarked Al Jazeera and started listening to it, like a good first-year student ought to start doing. You'll hear Al-Bayt al-Abyad here and there. But a waraqa, a piece of paper, is feminine, mu'annath, bisabab ta marbuta. So instead of saying al-abyadda, we're going to change its form completely and say bayda. And so bayda is the feminine form of abyad. And you'll learn this pretty quickly as you go. There's 7 colors that do this. And then there's certain other adjectives that refer to things like skin color, hair texture, and then physical and mental disabilities for some reason. And they fall into this category of adjectives. Al-Kitab, the book. Al-Akhtar. Akhtar is green. And notice that abyad and akhtar have the same wazn, the same pattern. So this is the green book. But if it's a backpack, haqiba, this is mu'annath or feminine. So we changed the akhtar, not making it akhtara, but rather khadra. And so this is just something that you'll pick up as you go. For the overwhelmingly most part, you just add ta marbuta to the adjective to make it agree in gender. And that's really all I need to tell you about gender.